Welcome back to Midnight Signal AI. Today is May 9th, 2026, and we've got a packed run. New model launches from Google and OpenAI, fresh moves in voice and coding tools, and a few stories showing how AI is colliding with regulation, enterprise control, and the market. Let's start with the biggest release of the day.
And when you say biggest, this one matters because Google is not just adding another model name to the shelf. General availability usually means the company thinks the system is stable enough for real product use, not just experimentation. That changes the conversation from what can it do to where does it fit in production.
Exactly. According to TestingCatalog, Google has launched Gemini 3.1 Flash-Lite in general availability. The key signal here is the Flash-Lite part. This is likely aimed at speed, cost, and broad deployment, rather than maximum frontier performance. For teams building consumer apps or high-volume workflows, that balance can matter more than a flashy benchmark win.
Right, and Google has been leaning hard into the idea that not every AI task needs the biggest, most expensive model. If Flash-Lite is the practical option, then it's probably meant to be the default layer for chat, summarization, routing, or agent steps where latency and price dominate. That's a very different kind of competition than the headline-grabbing model race.
Speaking of headline grabbing, WION reports that OpenAI has launched GPT 5.5 Cyber. The framing alone tells you the target audience: security teams, defenders, and probably organizations that want more specialized reasoning around cyber workflows. This is another example of OpenAI segmenting its model lineup instead of treating one model as the answer to everything.
And that specialization matters. A cyber-focused model can be useful if it helps analysts triage alerts, interpret logs, or reason through incident response faster. But it also raises expectations. Security buyers will want fewer hallucinations, better tool use, and clear boundaries around what the model can and cannot be trusted to do.
OpenAI is also getting attention from Venturebeat, which says GPT-5 class reasoning is now coming to real-time voice. That's a big shift, because voice agents have often been good at surface-level interaction, but weak at deeper orchestration. If the model can reason better while speaking naturally, the whole category becomes more useful for support, scheduling, and live operations.
That's the key phrase. Actual orchestration. A voice agent isn't impressive just because it sounds fluent. It has to remember context, call tools, handle interruptions, and make decisions under pressure. If GPT-5 class reasoning really improves that layer, then voice stops being a demo feature and starts becoming infrastructure.
On a related OpenAI note, Let's Data Science reports that OpenAI has enabled smartphone control for codec sessions. That suggests the coding workflow is becoming more mobile and more agentic, with the model able to interact beyond a desktop terminal. For developers, that could mean faster approvals, monitoring, or hands-on intervention while away from the keyboard.
It also shows where AI coding tools are heading, not just generating code, but participating in the whole software loop. If a codec session can be managed from a phone, that's useful for oversight and quick decisions. But it also makes security and permissions even more important, because the convenience comes with a bigger blast radius if something goes wrong.
OpenRouter's announcement on the Hacker News AI feed is also worth watching. GPT 5.5 price increase, with a cost analysis that drew a lot of attention. Even without leaning on the exact pricing details, the broader point is simple. As models get more capable, the economics become part of the product story. Developers don't just buy intelligence, they buy usage patterns, throughput, and predictability.
And that's where the market gets real. A more capable model is great, but if the cost jumps too high, teams start comparing it against smaller models, open alternatives, or hybrid routing strategies. Price changes can shift architecture decisions just as much as a new benchmark does.
Switching gears to Anthropic, Venturebeat says the company wants to own your agent's memory, evals, and orchestration, which should make enterprises nervous. That's a strong headline, but the underlying issue is familiar. Whoever controls the memory layer and evaluation layer often controls the workflow itself. In agent systems, those layers are strategic.
Exactly. If a vendor manages memory, then it can shape what the agent remembers, how it retrieves context, and how it behaves over time. If it owns evals, it can define what good looks like. And if it owns orchestration, it can sit in the middle of every action. Enterprises will like the convenience, but they'll worry about lock-in and governance.
Business Insider has another Anthropic-related story. A company tested Claude Mythos Preview and says the AI found a bug that existed for 20 years. That's the kind of anecdote that gets attention because it suggests real utility in legacy codebases, where humans have simply learned to live with old defects. If true, it's a strong reminder that models can be valuable in the boring, messy parts of software.
And that matters because legacy bugs are everywhere. A model that can notice a long-standing issue in a codebase isn't just being clever, it's potentially saving hours of manual review. The important caveat is that one success story doesn't mean full autonomy, but it does show why developers keep testing these systems on real production problems.
Quantum Zeitgeist reports that Anthropic's NLAs surfaced 14% of hidden behaviors in Claude 4.6. The wording suggests a deeper look into model behavior rather than a simple product feature. Why it matters? The more capable these systems get, the more important it becomes to understand what's hidden underneath the polished interface.
That's a very enterprise-relevant issue. Hidden behaviors can mean surprises in safety, reliability, or consistency. If a system reveals more of its internal patterns under analysis, that helps researchers and buyers alike. It's another reminder that model performance is only half the story. Interpretability and auditability are becoming part of the product.
Now to the policy side. Quartz reports that France has turned its probe of Elon Musk and X into a criminal investigation. This isn't an AI model story in the narrow sense, but it does matter for the broader platform and AI ecosystem because X sits at the center of online discourse, distribution, and increasingly AI-adjacent product strategy.
And when a regulatory probe becomes criminal, the stakes rise fast. For a platform like X, the issue isn't just moderation or compliance in the abstract. It's about how governments view platform power, content responsibility, and the behavior of the company's leadership. That can spill over into how investors and partners assess the whole ecosystem.
The London Evening Standard also has a more cultural take. As Mark Zuckerberg makes an AI version of himself, it asks whether your next boss will be an avatar. This is less about one product and more about the direction of work. If leaders start using AI stand-ins for communication, training, or even management tasks, the workplace gets more automated in ways people can feel personally.
That story lands because it's not just a tech question, it's a trust question. People can tolerate automation in the background, but leadership is different. If an avatar is delivering decisions or direction, employees will want to know whether they're getting a real human judgment or a polished simulation of one. That's a big cultural shift.
The New York Times also reports that Meta's embrace of AI is making its employees miserable. We don't need to overstate it to see the pattern. Rapid AI adoption can create internal pressure, unclear expectations, and a sense that everyone has to adapt faster than the organization can absorb. That's the hidden cost behind the public AI race.
And that's a story a lot of companies are probably living quietly. When leadership pushes AI hard, employees can feel like the rules are changing every week. Some jobs get redefined, some workflows get monitored more closely, and some people just feel left behind. The productivity story is real, but so is the morale story.
Finally, MSN reports that NVIDIA stock has been trailing SOXX by the widest margin in years, and the piece points to Jensen Huang's China trip with Trump as a fix. That's a reminder that AI hardware is still tied to geopolitics and trade policy, not just chip design. For NVIDIA, demand is global, but access is political.
And that makes NVIDIA a bellwether for the whole AI economy. If policy shifts open or close markets, the impact goes far beyond one company's stock chart. It affects cloud providers, model developers, and every startup trying to budget for inference and training. The AI boom still runs on physical supply chains and diplomatic decisions.
So the theme today is pretty clear. The model race is getting more specialized, the agent stack is getting more strategic, and the business and policy sides are becoming impossible to ignore. We're seeing faster launches, but also more questions about cost, control, and who gets to own the workflow.
That's the right way to read the day's news. It's not just that models are getting better, it's that they're moving deeper into products, organizations, and institutions. That's where the real competition is now, not just in capability, but in integration and trust.
That's our signal for today. We'll keep tracking the model launches, the enterprise moves, and the policy pressure as they land. Thanks for listening to Midnight Signal AI, and we'll be back with the next wave of updates soon.
Until then, keep an eye on what's shipping versus what's being promised. In AI, that gap tells you almost everything you need to know.
Stay sharp. The future doesn't wait.